Ave Maria, and welcome to a lesson on modesty in the School of Mary. Now, why are we talking about modesty in the School of Mary? For two reasons. The first reason is that modesty is particularly a Marian virtue. It is a virtue that Our Lady practiced. And the second reason is that Our Lady is one of the few voices that still today speaks to us about modesty and exhorts us to live it. In fact, in Fatima, Our Lady spoke to Saint Jacinta and told her that certain fashions would be introduced that would greatly offend our Lord. And get ready for strong language from Our Lady. She said, "Woe to women who are lacking in modesty." Because this message is so strong, and because Our Lady conveys it to us with such force and with such urgency, let's talk about it. And let's invoke her help in order to understand modesty, and then to live it, and then to practice it. So let's begin with a definition of what modesty is. According to the definition of the Catechism, paragraph 2521, you can look it up, modesty protects the intimate center of the person. It means refusing to unveil what should remain hidden. Modesty then is decency, and it inspires one's choice of clothing. Modesty is not just in the mind, modesty is in our behavior, in our actions, in the way we dress, in the choice we make of what to wear and how to wear it. So, moving forward, let's talk more about how modesty is practiced differently by men and women. We are created by God, male and female, and there's a complementarity in the relationship between men and women. Hence, the practice of virtue has to be complementary. The practice of modesty has to be complementary. Men have to express their masculinity in the way they practice virtue. Women have to express femininity in the way they practice virtue. And this applies to modesty as well. Very succinctly put, this means that when it comes to modesty and chastity, from the beginning of humanity, it's typically one of the sexes, the woman, who's guilty of offering the forbidden fruit, who's guilty of allowing herself to be objectified and reduced to an object of lust. And it's the other sex, the man, who takes that forbidden fruit and who does reduce woman to an object of lust. And the history repeats itself over and over again to our own day. So let's see how the virtue of modesty can help us break that cycle. Let's look at the primary duty of a man in the practice of modesty and chastity. The primary duty of a man is to not objectify women by not lusting after them, not reducing them to mere objects of desire and pleasure. To do so, to lust after a woman, is to already put yourself outside of God's friendship. So says our Lord in the Gospel of Matthew 5:28. You can look that up. Now, for women, the same duty in a complementary way applies. Women cannot allow themselves to be reduced to objects of lust by their choice of clothing, by the way they dress, or, by the way they undress in front of others. To do so, to allow yourselves to be reduced to objects of mere lust by others, is to already put yourselves outside of God's friendship. To allow others to trample your dignity, to throw pearls before swine, as our Lord says in the Gospel, is already to put yourselves outside of God's friendship. And the same applies to you, Matthew 5:28. Let's get concrete. Well, what clothing is immodest then? Applying the definition of the Catechism and using it now in context, any clothing that unveils or draws attention to that which should remain hidden is immodest. The church has no fashion of its own. The church doesn't choose your style, but it does give you the principles to make the right Christian choice in your decision about what to wear. Any clothing that unveils or draws attention to that which should remain hidden is immodest. Well, what should remain hidden? Those parts of the body that arouse attraction for spousal union, spousal love, sexual union. Certain parts of the body are closely ordered to sexual union. Those parts of the body are for spouses alone to see and to desire and to take pleasure in. They're not for the general public. To unveil those parts of the body or to draw attention to them before everybody is to act immodestly. Let's look at some examples now, very concrete examples of immodest clothing. Anything that is too revealing, because there's not enough fabric there. It's too scanty or it's too short. Obviously, that is immodest. But perhaps less obviously, but important to note, clothing that is very tight, that is adherent, that is skin tight, that too, for obvious reasons, draws attention to parts of the body that are closely ordered to spousal love and hence is immodest. And hence must be avoided by women who respect their dignity, by women who want to practice modesty. At the beginning of this lesson, we talked about the need for Our Lady's intercession to understand modesty and to practice it. We've said the essential about what modesty is, how it must be practiced by men and women. Now, hopefully what we've understood we'll start living and putting into practice. May Our Lady help us to do this. The way to protect and keep unstained and perfect chastity is solid and fervent devotion to the Virgin Mother of God. Everything else, every other help is contained in this one, devotion to our Blessed Mother. May she help us to understand and to live modesty so as to preserve our dignity of sons and daughters of God. Ave Maria.